Tonight at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, the pandemic-era Title 42 public health order will end. Starting at midnight, people who arrive at our southern border will be subject to our immigration enforcement authorities under Title 8 of the United States Code. Here is what that means. If anyone arrives at our southern border after midnight tonight, they will be presumed ineligible for asylum and subject to steeper consequences for unlawful entry, including a minimum 5-year ban on re-entry and potential criminal prosecution.
DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is outlining what the Biden administration intends to do now that Title 42, the pandemic era policy that just automatically rejected asylum seekers, is expiring. Now, Title 8 is interesting, especially since they're now touting that. Title 8 is what the Biden administration had implemented in order to just reject asylum seekers, or a better way of phrasing it is severely limit and restrict asylum as people come to the border. So according to the Hill's reporting on this, what the Biden administration plans to do is take aim at those who travel through Latin America and other parts of the globe on a journey to the United States. The rule requires them to first seek protection in another country along the way that offers asylum. Mayorkas also talked about it during a recent press conference. There's a few more details that I want you to hear from him, and then we'll go to Cenk. Let's watch.
Our current situation is the outcome of Congress leaving a broken, outdated immigration system in place for over 2 decades, despite unanimous agreement that we desperately need legislative reform. It is also the result of Congress's decision not to provide us with the resources we need and that we requested. Our efforts within the constraints of our broken immigration system are focused on ensuring that the process is safe, orderly, and humane, all while protecting our dedicated workforce and our communities. I want to be very clear. Our borders are not open. People who cross our border unlawfully and without a legal basis to remain will be promptly processed and removed.
So I gotta say, Cenk, it seems like they're just extending Trump-era immigration policies, right? Because previously, if someone had entered the country through illegal means, let's say they did not go through a port of entry and instead crossed the border illegally, if they were caught by border agents, they could just say that they are seeking asylum, and then they would get their opportunity before a judge, an immigration judge, who would make a decision as to whether or not their asylum claim is legitimate. Trump changed that. So Trump implemented a policy where, no, you come in through illegal means, then we are not going to process your asylum claim. You have to go in through ports of entry. And then he, of course, had Border Patrol agents block ports of entry. So that was the one thing he did differently from what Biden is about to do. But I mean, I thought Biden was supposed to be the more humane individual here.
In fact, in one of the debates when prodded by Julian Castro, who was running against him, Biden claimed that Donald Trump was the first president to do this exact policy, and he found it to be horrible, atrocious, can't believe it. Well, congratulations, Joe Biden's now the second president to do it.
I actually want to show you guys the receipts. So this was on the debate stage with Donald Trump right beside him. Let's watch.
This is the first president in the history of the United States of America that anybody seeking asylum has to do it in another country. That's never happened before in America. That's never happened before in America. You come to the United States and you make your case that I seek asylum based on the following premise: why I deserve it under American law. They're sitting in squalor on the other side of the river.
And they will continue to sit in squalor on the other side of the river. That is exactly what will happen.
Okay, now let's talk about how politically irrational this is. I'll be kind. So you're gonna copy Donald Trump's policy that you're on tape, both in the primaries and in the general election, saying it was a terrible policy. Okay, so now, how many MAGA votes do you think you're gonna pick up with that? No, serious question. But you have to understand something. For all of you at home, you all think like, well, we all get it, Cenk. What's the hard part? He's not gonna pick up any MAGA votes, any Republican votes. How could he pick up any votes by copying Trump's policy, right? But you have to understand the reason why I'm saying it is because everyone in Washington thinks it's a brilliant policy. They're like, oh, bravo. You go right wing, because they think they're already in the general election. They're not worried about a primary. You go right wing and you pick up their votes. Why would you pick up their votes? They're already right wing.
It's a disaster.
But it's a thing that people in Washington have believed for 40 straight years. Why, by the way? There's a real reason why. Because all their donors are right wing. So they want an excuse to be right wing. And they're like, oh, yeah. If you want to, get votes, you do the exact thing as the other party. And what do? You also take energy out of your own base who now don't want to support you, and you seem like a hypocrite. You literally could not play it any worse.
Okay, so best case scenario, what's going through the Biden administration's mind is we're not gonna pick up MAGA votes, but maybe if we implement the same policies as Trump, maybe the conservative media will back off and stop attacking the Biden administration, which
they probably are that. Again, I'm gonna try really hard not to say dumb or stupid. So they probably are that irrational that they would think.
Irrational is a good word because that is an irrational thing to think.
Yeah, conservative media. Now they'll go easy on you, Joe.
Okay.
Brilliant.
But guys, okay, first let me give you some more details about Biden's response to Title 42 expiring, because there's more to this. So as Mayorkas also noted in that press conference, quote, "We are finalizing a new rule to encourage individuals to use available, lawful, safe and orderly pathways to enter the US. The rule presumes that those who do not use lawful pathways to enter the US are ineligible for asylum. So again, if they don't enter through a port of entry, then their asylum claim isn't even considered. They're immediately deported and they can't even apply for asylum for 5 years. So the other thing that they're trying to do is get migrants to just try to get citizenship in some other country that they would otherwise pass through to get to the southern border. The other thing they're doing is, hey, how about you use this handy dandy app that's super glitchy, that has given us all sorts of problems, to just check to see if you would even be eligible for asylum. And that'll be more efficient, except it hasn't been efficient. And you're asking migrants, many of whom are being smuggled by human traffickers, okay? Many of whom might not even speak English. You're asking them to use a glitchy app to figure out whether or not they would be eligible for asylum. That's the big solution to all of this? It's ridiculous. And look, I'm fair in noting that the executive branch can't unilaterally solve this, okay? So what Mayorkas said in regard to the inaction of Congress was absolutely correct. That is one thing that he said that I agree with. Congress dropping the ball on this and Republicans having this simultaneous meltdown over Biden's response is ridiculous. How about you guys do your jobs? But they refuse to engage in any type of conversation regarding legitimate, robust immigration reform. So if you're not gonna do your job, you can't then turn around and cry about the migrant crisis. And to be sure, they're expecting, this is from the Biden administration, they're expecting at least 13,000 people to come to the southern border every single day. So that's a crisis. And to just have this, honestly, in their minds, easy solution of going back to what Trump did is not the right answer.
So look, guys, there is, of course, something you could do. I always like to do constructive critique, not just tear things down. So could Biden do something differently? Of course, you could say, look, I need funding for thousands of judges at the border, because what we need to do is, we're America. When people come to us, we give them a fair shot, okay? That's something that his base would love to hear, and a lot of independents would love to hear. But we need to process these quickly, and we need people to say, okay, you've come in, we're not just gonna let you run into the country, there's a border, okay? So you're gonna have to come, but you get to make your case for asylum. But in order for us to do that efficiently enough, so we're turning people around, right? Accepting whoever makes sense, and unfortunately not accepting folks who don't have a legitimate claim, well, then I need judges. Then you ask the Republicans for it, and when the Republicans say no, which they will, then you turn around and go,
exactly.
The problem at the border is the Republicans' fault.
Exactly. 100%.
They won't let us process these guys efficiently. Instead, they're letting them just run into the country because they won't let us give us the resources we need.
You would need a strong leader to do that, and Biden ain't that guy. And final thing I'll say about this is, Biden's entire campaign in 2020 His whole platform was, vote for me because I'm not Trump. Vote for me because I'm the one who can beat Trump. Vote for me, I'm the more decent, humane person. How exactly does he plan on pushing that message when some of the main policies that he attacked Trump on are the very policies that he is now falling back on, like this immigration policy?
Yeah.
Little bit of a liability for his re-election campaign, no?
Obviously, except for everyone in Washington. So look, that's the last thing I'll land on, which is, to people in Washington, breaking your campaign promises is a savvy thing to do, right? Like, so for example, they always give credit to savvy politicians who say one thing in a primary and then turn around and say the opposite in a general election. They're like, well, in the primary, you're trying to appeal to your base, so you lie to them. And then in a general election, you're trying to appeal to centrists, etc., so you lie to them. And then when you get into office, the savvy politician doesn't do either one of those things because he lied to all of them. No, that is not winning politics. I know every phony in Washington thinks it is. And it's because they never intended to do anything for you guys. All they're ever gonna do is serve corporate rule. But if you had an actual fighter for you, a real representative, yeah, they're actually supposed to do the things that they promised on the trail, right? But to people like Joe Biden, actually delivering on your campaign promises is just a joke, right? It's a punchline, people are so dumb they'll never figure it out, and mainstream media will just cover our ass. No, you're clearly breaking a campaign promise. We see you, brother, we see you. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.